Have you ever looked at someone, maybe a friend, a colleague, or even your own brother, and felt a cold, sinking feeling in your chest? It's not just that they succeeded. It's that their success feels like a direct comment on your failure. You did the work. You showed up. But for some reason, the universe or the boss or the parent looked at their offering and said yes, and looked at yours and said, not quite. This isn't just being jealous. This is something deeper. It's resentment. And if left untreated, resentment doesn't just make you sad, it makes you dangerous. Today, we're going back to the very first time this happened in human history. I am performing a psychological autopsy on Cain, the man who invented the shadow self, to find out why some of us would rather destroy the world than watch someone else be blessed in it. I'm John, and I've always found that psychology and spirituality don't have to be at odds. In fact, I believe they work together to reveal the full reality of human nature. Back to our subject, Cain was the firstborn. In the ancient world, and even in modern developmental psychology, the firstborn often carries the weight of archetypal expectation. He was the first human being ever born of a woman. His name literally means acquired or possession. Imagine the pressure. He was the prototype. As you can see his profile on the screen, Cain was a tiller of the ground. Psychologically, he represents the introverted sensor. He is grounded, hardworking, and invested in the physical world. He believes in the law of input and output. If I sweat, the earth should give me fruit. He is the man who follows the rules and expects the reward. He isn't a villain yet. He's a high achiever who believes the world is a meritocracy. Then comes Abel, the second-born. His name, Hevel, means vapor or breath. He is transparent, perhaps more intuitive, a keeper of sheep. They both bring an offering to the divine. And here is the inciting trauma. Abel's offering is accepted, and Cain's is not. From a clinical perspective, Cain experiences a narcissistic injury. His sense of self was tied to his performance. When that performance was rejected, his entire identity collapsed. Notice the text says, his countenance fell. In psychology, we call this psychosomatic manifestation of depression. His internal shame became a visible physical weight. Let's take pause here a little at how this plays out in our actual lives. Twos. We've all seen it. That person at work, or even within our own families, who seems to do less than we do, but somehow ends up with more of the reward. You're over there grinding, putting in the hours, and honestly busting your back, while their seemingly smaller efforts get all the recognition. It makes you wonder, why doesn't pure effort always equal the best result? Think about the story of Abel. I'm not saying he was lazy, and I'm not saying the high performers we see today are lazy either. But let's be honest about the work itself. If you compare tilling and cultivating the ground to raising livestock, especially in a world with zero mechanized agriculture, the physical toll is completely different. Tilling is back-breaking, relentless grit. In my mind, it's objectively harder work. Yet the outcome and the favor didn't necessarily follow the person who suffered the most. It's a psychological trap we all fall into, believing that the more we suffer, the more we earn the win. But just like we will with the Norse cycle or the weight cutters, sometimes the most grueling path isn't the most effective one. We've been conditioned to value the grind so much that we forget to ask if the grind is actually serving us or just wearing us down. To understand what happened next, we have to look at Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. Cain had a persona, the hard-working, dutiful son, but he also had a shadow, the part of him that felt entitled, angry, and ignored. When God rejected his sacrifice, the shadow took the wheel. Cain didn't just feel bad. He felt invalidated by the universe. Jung thought that when we cannot integrate our shadow, we project it onto others. Cain didn't see his own failure. He saw Abel as the personification of his own inadequacy. Abel became the other that had to be eliminated for Cain to feel right again. We need to take another look towards here. We live in a world where success has become a trigger for deep-seated anger. We see it everywhere, the drive to tax the wealthy, to punish excellence, and sometimes something much darker. Take the recent shooting of the health insurance CEO in America. When the news broke, the reaction on social media was chilling. There were so many people who didn't just see a tragedy. They seemed to find a twisted kind of joy in it. They were celebrating. As a Christian and someone who loves psychology, I have to ask, is that not the manifestation of Cain right there in front of us? Think about the psychology of that first story. Cain worked harder. He broke his back tilling the soil, yet he felt his offering was rejected while his brother's was favored. His anger wasn't just about the work, it was about a perceived injustice. He couldn't handle that someone else had found favor while he was left in the dirt. When we see people celebrating the downfall or even the death of the successful, we're seeing that same ancient resentment. It's the Cain in us saying, if I am suffering and you are thriving, then you must be the problem. We'd rather destroy the Abel in our lives than look at the quality of our own offering or the state of our own hearts. It's a dark mirror, and I think we all need to spend some time reflecting on what we see in it. Maybe you should too. Back to the text again. That was a weave like President Trump would call it. Here is where we have to ask a difficult, perhaps even controversial question. Was the test unfair? Traditional theology says God saw Cain's heart was wrong. But if we look at it through a psychological lens, we have to wonder, did the rejection itself create the bitterness, or was the bitterness already there? If God is the ultimate parental figure, then this story is the first record of parental favoritism. Could Cain have recovered if he had been given a performance review instead of a silent rejection? By leaving the reason for the rejection ambiguous, the narrative forces us to confront a terrifying reality. Sometimes life is arbitrary. Sometimes you do your best and still lose. How you handle that divine silence determines whether you become a saint or a monster. Before we get to the field where the blood was shed, I want to pause. I want you to think about a time you were passed over for something you felt you deserved. Maybe it was a promotion, or maybe it was just the attention of someone you loved. Did you feel that Cain-like urge to find someone to blame? Did you start to resent the person who got what you wanted? Drop a comment below and just type, "I've felt it." You don't have to give details if you don't want to, but let's acknowledge how universal this feeling is. It's the first step to making sure we don't follow Cain's path. God gives Cain a warning, a clinical intervention, if you will. He says, "Sin is crouching at your door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it." In modern terms, this is metacognition. God is telling Cain to observe his own thoughts, but Cain is too far gone into a dissociative rage. He invites Abel into the field, a place of work, a place of input and output. When Cain kills Abel, he isn't just killing a brother. He is trying to kill the reminder of his own failure. It's a tragic psychological paradox. Cain thought that by removing the winner, he would no longer be the loser. Instead, he became a murderer. He traded a bruised ego for a shattered soul. The story doesn't end with the murder. It ends with a mark and a wanderer. Psychologically, Cain is now living in a state of permanent hypervigilance. He says, "Whoever finds me will kill me." This is the paranoia of the aggressor. Because he broke the social contract, he assumes the world is now out to break him. This creates a cycle of generational trauma. If you read further into the genealogy, Cain's descendant Lamech becomes even more violent, boasting about killing a young man for merely striking him. The unresolved resentment of the father became the sociopathy of the great-grandson. Why does this matter in 2026? Because we live in the most comparative era in human history. Social media is a 24/7 offering gallery. We post our best crops, our best sacrifices, our best lives, and then we watch the likes, the modern version of divine fire, fall on someone else's post while ours stays dark. If we don't understand the psychology of Cain, we will spend our lives in a state of social media resentment, killing our joy and our relationships because we can't handle the success of our Abels. Cain's story is a warning that your value cannot be tied to how you rank against others. Cain was sent to the land of Nod, which means wandering. He built a city, but he never found peace. So here is my challenge to you. The next time you feel that sting of resentment, that Cain moment, pause. Ask yourself if you're actually upset with the other person, or if you're just exhausted from tilling a field you weren't meant to be in. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever felt that Cain resentment in your own career, family, or relationship? How did you move past it? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. And if this autopsy of the human heart helped you see this story in a new light, share it with someone who might be struggling with their own shadow. Also, you can encourage me by subscribing to the channel for more content like this.